We are finally on chapter 5 of the Gypsy book. I didn't think that this book would be that bad, but it is pretty rough, guys. So in chapter 5, she goes in to start with explaining how she didn't realize that the way that she interacted and the way that she lived her life was different than other people. She brings up that she was a daisy in the Girl Scouts, but that she didn't get to be a brownie in the Girl Scouts, which, her just saying the word brownie, it gives me PTSD. If you know, you know. She states that she only went to kindergarten for, and that was it for schooling. She didn't go to any other grades. She didn't get homeschooled, nothing. Like, her mother would go to doctor's offices and she would tell them that her daughter was going to school, but she really wasn't. So the doctors would then document that she was going to this particular school, but Gypsy had never actually went to school. I will say that I find that kind of hard to believe that her mother didn't homeschool her to a certain level, because Gypsy is smart. She does know how to read, write, everything. Her mother had to teach her something. She knew about different countries. Just, it was just weird to me, because she knows math, she knew how to write, read, everything. She claims that her mother would just give her meds and Pediasure, and that was really the only meals that she would have. She claims that she didn't really eat any food, and that her feeding tube was what was used for her medicine and Pediasure. But we do see her being in pictures with food. We see her in her past interviews of talking about eating and stuff like that. So I find that a little bit weird and odd, and I don't believe that either. She tells us that her mother was more of a vegetarian type person, that her mother would not eat meat. But as we know, she talked about how her mother was a good cook, and that she cooked really everything and anything. And when her mother would make gumbo and stuff like that, she would add meat to it. So I'm a little confused. She tells us that she would not really sleep by herself, that she would sleep with her mother. Tells us that she never really got to go outside, that she remembers a couple of times less than a handful, and in those memories, she found those to be pleasant. We see countless pictures of Gypsy outside as a child up into her teenage years, and we do see her outside as a teenager. The only thing I will give her in this matter is that she was in a wheelchair. I could see that that would not be very pleasant, being in a wheelchair, being rolled around outside, so I will agree with that. She tells us that she would do this up until the age of 14, so once again, she's mentioning her age. She knows her age at this point. She says it throughout the whole book. She participated in the Gumbo Games, which is considered like a smaller form of the Olympics, or the Special Olympics, which we all know about that because she won awards. So this girl who knew she could walk the entire time, is participating in these events, winning these events, and taking that privilege or that opportunity away from someone who really did the hard work and really deserved it. Her only companions at this point were paper-created people in a plastic rat, one that you would buy during Halloween. Tells us a story about how she celebrated outside with her mother, where they would throw snowballs at each other. They made a snowman, and that's the only real winter memory that she could think of. Yet we see the video of her climbing on her porch banister and jumping off. She said that she couldn't really appreciate this because her mother would not allow her to move her legs. She goes in to tell us about how Christmas was for her. She said that her mother would celebrate Christmas, but she didn't consider it really Christmas because she wasn't surrounded by family members. Her mother would purchase her Christmas presents. Which, Gypsy, I hate to tell you this, but a lot of single moms are in that same predicament. At least your mother had purchased presents for you to open on Christmas. Feel blessed that you at least got to do that. And a lot of single moms don't have the privilege of traveling and taking their child everywhere and celebrating family. And there's a lot of things that's very contradictory about this, because you mentioned that you do go to church on Sundays with family members. So why couldn't they have come to your house and celebrated with you? It's not only your mom's fault for this. Your dad was more than capable of coming to see you. He chose not to. That is his fault. She says that she only got to see her dad once a year, but that's her mother's fault, because how in the hell is that your mom's fault? Your dad was a grown-ass man who was more than capable of seeing his child. He chose to stay with his other family and cast you out. Your dad's a grown man. Like, stop. Just stop. Quit defending that trash. Says that her dad went to her wheelchair races once. Her and her mother would watch New Year's Eve and the New Year's drop every year, which was a good memory for her. Oh boy. Here we go. Bottles and diapers. So the age shifts to 13, and she says that she was still drinking out of a bottle because the bottle was very comforting to her. So she would go out in public and drink pink Pediasure in front of people, and she would get looks from people because, obviously, girl, you big as hell, in a wheelchair, drinking a Pediasure bottle, and her mother would make excuses for her and say, my daughter's just mentally not all there, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, obviously. Says that she developed SpongeBob teeth, but this girl never watched SpongeBob. So how do you know what SpongeBob's teeth looked like at the time? And that she didn't realize or didn't didn't know why she would have to have her teeth removed. But, I mean, she goes on and says that the reason why she had her teeth was removed was once it was just unnecessary. It was just an unnecessary procedure. Another time was because she was forced to do chemo and forced to get medical treatments and take medicine all the time. But, sweetheart, you just answered your own question. In the previous statement that you made, your teeth looked bad and rotted out probably because you had a slow flow nipple because that's what you preferred. Drank Pediasure out of a bottle. That's going to mess your teeth up, especially when you're an adult. That's why children are supposed to be weaned off the bottle before their teeth comes in. Said that her mother had graduated her to use a sippy cup. Said that her mom, during this time of the month in her womanhood, would make her wear training pants instead of a tampon or a pad. She goes on in the chapter for a couple of minutes about how her mother was an attention whore and loved the attention that she got from interviews, and that's why she believed that her mom did what she did was for the attention on herself. And she brought up the Munchausen by proxy again. Said her mother would be the one that would give her lines to say to the interviewers. Goes on about pitying her father. Why the hell are we pitying a man that was more than able to come and see you? He just chose to be with his new family. Goes on to say that the reason why she didn't have a relationship with her father was because her mother hated her dad so much so that she would just refuse Gypsy at all times to see him. She goes on to talk about the CPS and how the CPS had came to her house with a officer and that they had demanded to see her, basically her social security number and everything. It was notated in that police report that when the officer had came to the scene and looked at her social security card that she was of age. She was too old for them to do anything and they had to close the case because she was of age. Because of this, she finds out what her real age is. Said that she had unnecessary surgeries every year. No, you didn't, Gypsy. You didn't have a surgery every year. Talks about trash bags covering the windows and how her mom put those up after the CPS interaction, but she later mentions again in the next couple of chapters that her mother put trash bags over the windows.